What's up? Today we are going to talk about our new studio and being in it for 1 whole year.
In the past, we had technically 3 other studio spaces, 2 that we rented and 1 that we were bumming in as interns. The first space we were in officially was kind of like a long hallway of a room in a warehouse.
2,500 square foot.
So decently sized. And then later on, a space below us opened that was like 3 of those rooms plus another 3. So it was like
six times the size.
Yeah, like 12,000 or something square feet, just open warehouse floor. We were in there for like about, I don't know.
Little over a year?
Yeah,
just a
maybe
hair
a
over
little
a
over a year.
Because we were about to sign another year lease.
And we were in the space before that for maybe like 2 or 3 years or something like that.
4, almost 4 years. We just got too small.
The big space. No.
Yeah.
The upstairs, was just getting small. The reason we wanted to own a space is because we wanted to own a space and yeah, that makes sense, right?
That's like your math homework, or you're like, the reason I wanted to do this is because it was this.
Yeah, we liked the space we were in, the big space, but there's a couple things about it that just weren't ideal long-term. One, we didn't own it, so any work that we put into it would not be any value to us, and Hunter's pretty handy, so it wasn't worth his time or effort to do a bunch of work to a spot that we potentially could be kicked out of at any time.
Yeah, and there was talk of that place being like tore down and stuff, and it's just like one of those things where if we're busy on a film and something happens to where either we are kicked out or like they are telling us we have to leave at a certain point, it's a lot of work and unpredictable where we might have to say no to a job, and it's like we don't want to be in that position. So it was a bad situation to be in where we get, in a position where we're busy, but we need to move. And moving, it took us 2 months and like more to even be settled. So additionally, looking at the accounting and just how much you spend on rent, and, that's not equity. Obviously you pay tax when you run a building and there's a lot of expenses, things can need fixed, but, things still needed fixed at the place you're renting. You know what I mean? It can happen. So it was a better financial move. It was a better situational move, all of it.
Just in terms of studio space, the old space was kind of a cool, grungy warehouse space. There's a lot of freedom to do stuff related to that. But when it came to using it as an actual studio space that we could potentially rent out to people, we had like paper backdrops and stuff that like photographers would use to rent from us from time to time. Sound during the day was a huge issue. There was a loading dock below us that it felt like someone was dragging a piece of tin across the floor.
I think they just were
24/7, or they had like a
truck would
what's
be in
it called?
there. The tow motor.
Yeah, they had a tow motor that literally just had like a string with a piece of tin that was dragging around on the floor, so maybe they could keep track of where it was. I don't know, but it was really loud. So we try to film stuff during the day, which is when most like actual client work or people renting the studio out would be, and there'd be a ton of noise. It's a 100-year-old warehouse, so every time the train went by, the train was loud.
Dust would fall from the ceiling.
Dust would fall from the ceiling, so it was really hard to keep clean.
Oh my God.
There's a video of Hunter spraying out one of our computers with the dust, and there's just the amount of dust in it was insane.
And that wasn't the only time we sprayed it out either. We had to do it constantly. It was like a monthly thing. It was very dusty. There's no HVAC is what it really comes down to. There's no airflow that's, promoted. Yeah.
So those couple things were reasons why it was, we were looking to move. We'd actually been in the market for a building probably since 2020. We had talked with realtors and looked at a space here or there. We looked at 2 spaces in downtown Cleveland, and they were just gonna take they're in our price range, but they needed 6 months to a year of straight work to be functional. So that they weren't necessarily ideal, but
not move-in ready.
But we were just thinking about our budget. It was like, is it worth it? Blah blah. In retrospect, probably not worth it. Finding somewhere that's way more move-in ready was worth the extra money that it cost, because we're still able to do business and rent the studio out and just work on our normal stuff without totally having to focus on fixing stuff. We are focused on fixing stuff and improving spaces, but it's not like the rest of the studio is unusable.
Yeah, that was the case at some of those.
So that's kind of some advice we'd give if you're looking for a space. Unless you just have a ton of money stacked up and can go for months without working. I would say it's more valuable to find somewhere move-in ready. And we had a little bit of overlap, like a month and a half of like, or probably just a month of,
It was a month
of owning the studio and when we left our old studio. So we had ample time to move everything. We have a ton of stuff. So basically every day for that month, we would take a load over in our truck. And then it still took 2 huge moving days where we rented like a super long U-Haul and had a ton of people helping us.
and our truck too.
So it was quite the process to move. Yeah.
Well, and we filled a 40-yard dumpster there, and a lot of people were like, wow, you had a lot of stuff, but there was a lot of stuff in there. It was kind of one of the things with renting that place was like, hey, it's a lot of space. We'll give you a good rate. There's a lot of stuff in there. We're not going to deal with it. It's up to you to deal with. And, we like took a lot of the stuff. Like some of it was useful. There was like a lot of wood. I mean, we got like endless wood.
Because it used to be a woodworking place and
Yeah.
they just abandoned all their stuff there. And the people that own it were like not going to deal with that. So it was like,
I just remember seeing a huge pile of wood and I was like, cha-ching, like we just nailed it. I wish I wouldn't, it was nice that we built the one room in there, but like think all the 2x4s I used and all the like drywall, whatever, it's what we needed to do business at the time. But, you can't dwell on it. We made this room really nice. I mean, this room literally, it looked like a dungeon. You just pause it right there.
yeah, it was super messed up.
Like that wall that's white. I mean, it's as easy as painting it, but it was just dirty. It wasn't as easy as painting it though. That's the thing. It was filthy. Everything was like, you could hit that box up there on the ceiling and like dust would just like fall, like inches of dust.
Yeah, it basically ruined the
And then
thing in there.
that all that wood on that wall we did take because it was there, like it was already in the building, and I just like paneled that wall with that wood, and then I took that and paneled a wall here. I just tore it all down. It was just nailed in.
So yeah, that's part of our new studio. It's kind of a part of the old studio and the new studio, which is nice. But yeah, so that was the old studio. It was big, but it was just not. Another good thing about the new studio, we can kind of go into it more, but a good thing is there are rooms and like things have a place. Whereas
Yeah, this was just open concept.
in the old studio, it was just a big open area. So keeping things clean and organized was more difficult, I think.
And also like it was a limited space. So you kind of ended up just like throwing stuff to the wayside a lot and just letting things pile up. Whereas here it's like we get like a desk and it's like, where are we going to put this?
Right.
Like there it was like, just throw it in the back, throw it wherever. I mean, it's like you had this whole front area that we painted all those like white walls and it made it pretty nice up here. And then this area in the back was just like a nightmare.
Yeah.
I made the office, which was pretty nice for like editing audio, whatever. But then back here was free for all.
It got better over time for sure. Like when you made those shelves and everything, but
Yeah.
it just was tough.
It's just a huge area to manage. It was cool for parties, I'll tell you that. And it was nice, like you could just ride the dirt bike up and down the aisle. You could like, I mean, it was kind of like,
free for all.
yeah, I felt like I could run the cutoff wheel wherever, which was kind of nice. Like in some ways, like a good workshop. You can just cut wood and do whatever.
And that's what it was made for, really,
Yeah.
is woodworking. There, there are some artists over there. Tom was over there. Shout out Tom, he's on YouTube. But
He's our guy.
but there are a lot of woodworking. So that's the other thing is too. You'd be recording something and you hear. So, it just wasn't ideal. If you are looking to buy a studio or rent a studio, keeping in mind what's around you is like super important. And for us, if we were just making our own content constantly, we're usually, working later in the day. So it wasn't as big of a deal to us if,
Yeah, at night it was silent.
it's silent in there. But if we're trying to rent it out during the day or do a shoot during the day, it was a lot more of a pain.
We were the only ones there at night.
Exactly. So it's, to us, a lot of time we're like, oh, it is pretty quiet because we're just here at really late. But during the day, there's a couple of things I remember doing and just being like, oh my gosh, we can't even do it.
It was almost frustrating. It's just like, oh, we want to like rent this place out, but like, is it going to be loud? You know what I mean? So,
And it was just dirt, you can't do a ton of stuff. Like the bathroom was like, all right, but it wasn't like we could replace anything or really do anything because it wasn't our stuff to like fix.
yeah, I feel like we really polished that turd.
Yeah.
I like how instead of doing all the drywall work, we just like hung pictures up over everything. It worked.
Yeah. But yeah, there just wasn't ideal, compared to like a nice studio that we've been to, other studios we've been to, it's like, yeah, it was cool and had its vibe, but it just wasn't professional. At the end of the day, it wasn't professional for renting out, which is something we want to do as a bit, it's just another stream of income and a thing that can help us not be poor. So
if you had if money wasn't such a big deal, it'd be nice to have just to do fun stuff in.
For sure.
So yeah, I know we had our search. We looked at a couple of different places in Cleveland that were kind of, candidates, but a lot of work. And then we came across this, James actually brought this place up because he was looking for a new place too. So it was like an instant tenant for us, which was nice. And yeah, in 2020, we worked out of this studio on a project. It was a recording studio at the time. The floor was all carpeted. The walls were all sound treated in our live, in the big room. So, we set up on the balcony and had like monitors up there, and, our person pulled focus from up there. Things were more crowded though. I just remember in here, it was so cramped. It was like there was nowhere for anything to go. Now it feels spacious. I mean, they also had like a grand piano and a lot of stuff like kind of piled up in here. So we try to keep it, we have the grip gear and the lighting and stuff, but we try to keep it as tidy as possible in here because otherwise it does feel cramped. And that's, you don't want this place to feel cramped at all. And it's pretty big, it's 40 foot wide and you got about 40 foot of workable space in the studio room. So it's not nothing. Pull a car in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, then when we moved in, or when we were looking at it at the first look, you can see that the people who were here between the recording studio and them did a lot of work to kind of clear out the studio space. It looks like they painted everything white that was black. Obviously they took all the acoustic treatment out of here. I don't know if it's like something that the people before took with them, yada yada, or they just got rid of. It'd be sad if they did because it's just like kind of wasted. Our gear room, it's funny, that room felt so small when we toured, but we can get a lot in there.
When we decided we were serious about buying this building, we started the process of getting financing for it. It ended up being like a 4 to 6 month process all in all, but it all wrapped up in February of 2022 and we got the building. So it all ended up working out, but it wasn't super easy. We created a separate business that owns the building, which wasn't really the hard part, but just getting all the finances together, getting all the money together was quite the task.
And we did have to change lenders. Our first one denied us after they said they would likely approve us. They did deny us. So that was kind of a big shock to the system where it was like, we were like in and we were ready to move and everything was like, it literally just came down to our underwriter being like, all right, you're good to go. And we got all right, you're not good to go. So
we had to scramble to figure something else out.
Yeah.
And there's a certain time frame. You sign a contract with like the intent to buy the real estate, and there's like a 60-day or some sort of some time frame around there, and we were already like 40 days into that. So we ended up just getting it extended. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was just like stressful.
Yeah, because we really wanted it. I think that was, and a lot of people say that, like, don't get too attached to a place. There's a lot of other places out there, yada, yada. But this place really ticked a lot of boxes. I mean, I don't think any place can tick every box as far as like what you want. But this was really close and we worked out of it. So it was like, it was that plus that kind of like assurance that like, okay, I know this place is going to work because we've been there for a week before and everything was great. So it's like, that's like our first space. We went and saw it 2 or 3 times. It was always quiet. And then once we were in there for more than a day, it was so loud.
Yeah, and you'll always learn things once you've been in a place for a while, but so far it's been pretty good.
We're going to give you a little walkthrough of our studio, showcase some of the rooms and different things we have to offer here. All right, the centerpiece of our studio is the 40-foot white cyc we have here. We've got a 2-wall with a corner curve around 40 foot left to right, and about 35 back to front. You have about 50 foot in length of space to work in here. So it's a pretty sizable room. You can get a lot of shoots done in here. There's enough room to pull a car in if you wanted to do a small shoot with a car, or any, smaller vehicles, stuff like that. So we do have a little garage access here, which is nice. Yeah, this room is really suited for sound. We have a pretty isolated room. There's not too much in the area that's making too much noise for you. So it's good for that. And it's just a nice little spot. Right over here, we have a really important piece. This is Cruisin' Exotica. It's an arcade game that we got from a friend, Eric Martin. You might know him. Shout out Eric Martin. He hooked it up. We got a little permalone situation on. But yeah, it's really fun, and the high scores have been challenged by many. So get in here. In our grid, we have a grid throughout the whole studio here. It comes from the back of the cyc all the way up into your working area. So if you had some rigging to do further back, you can do that as well. In the grid, we keep 2 of these Amaran 300Cs. We have a couple other in-house if we needed to put a couple more up, but these light the cyc very well. You can use color, any color you'd like. And what's nice in here is even with just these 2 lights, you can completely illuminate the cyc a specific color. And it comes out on camera really nice. You can even key off of it. We've done a little bit of keying. You can even pick a blue or a green, and it will key. So that's kind of a nice thing. You don't have to set up or paint everything green. You can just, and you can pretty much just put whatever background you want back there, and any color, which is cool. Create a nice vibe in here. We have a lot of Amaran lights in here as well for use. We kind of figure that a lot of folks who want to come in and do a larger shoot are going to have their own lights. We have a few other lights available for rent. But honestly, for us, you can get a lot done with a handful of Amaran fixtures and the lights that are in the cyc. So this is our nice room. We can now take a look at the podcasting areas. All right, on the side of our studio, you kind of have the cyc out that way. But right here, we've kind of created a corner of set. So this is a podcast set that gets used pretty regularly by 2 different podcasts that are kind of scheduled. So they come in very often. We have a nice wood corner that then transitions into a brick corner. We also have another wood texture and we can actually just kind of place those up on these faux walls. But yeah, this is a good area to even just build any set. We've done a few sets over here. We did a living room set, and it was, we had a handful of props. We had a little bit of help getting that all set up, and it was really believable. You can set that up, shoot it in a way that you'd think you're in someone's basement is kind of what it looked like. So, this space is also available to be used to create any look you can kind of think of. And it's really nice to shoot on a set, a 2 or 3 wall, because then you have more room over top to fly lights, and you have a lot more room for the camera and your crew. So a space like this is nice for those kind of things. And we've taken advantage of it ourselves, and yeah, pretty cool. Welcome to the balcony. This is our overlook over the studio, and is also become a little bit of our kind of movie, what would you call it, Hall of Fame, I guess, where we kind of show off the work we've been a part of. And we have this nice marquee light that we always put our most recent work film that is now playing. Right now it's the Iron Claw that is out. Really good film. And we got to do a little bit of work with the televisions, kind of in a post sense on that. We also have the little green carpet. It's the grass, fake grass, and some neon signs, because every place of business requires that. It's actually in the Ohio Code of Law. Over here you'll find some other posters for the movies we've worked on. We've actually got a handful of other ones coming in. I think actually just as many are up there. But yeah, we're trying to keep up with that, and it's just nice to kind of see the stuff you've been a part of. And honestly, not to get too sentimental, but every time I look at one of these posters, or anytime I watch anything related to any movie you've been a part of, it kind of transports you to that time of your life, the things you were doing, the relationships you had at that time, whatever your hobbies were at that time. You kind of, it's cool that it kind of encapsulates your life experience just by looking at, I see Liam Neeson, and I just think of that summer and how I had a bike with a pizza carrier on the front of it, and I brought pizza to set on my bicycle, and that was a very nice time in my life. I think my favorite thing about the balcony is that if you're up here and there's folks down low and they're working, you can have a good conversation. The sound carries well from up here, You don't have to raise your voice. Someone who's at the bottom of the balcony can hear you just as well as if you were down there. So we actually, when we were here to shoot back in 2020, we weren't in the building yet. It was just when we were here on a shoot. We set up our video village up here, and our director sat up here, and that way we had a little more room down there. The monitors weren't taking up space. So it's a recommendation when folks come here that you could have the monitors up here and free up some space down there. You can kind of get away from the set, but still have a good line of communication. Additionally, if you have a music video or something like that, we have a nice set of, a little setup with a computer, and you can get Spotify or whatever you want to play back for the music, a little mixer, and then you have some monitors up here so you can hear what you're working on, as well as these 1,000-watt 15-inch speakers on either side of the balcony that will play in the room, and they're plenty loud for this room. So you can really crank up the music in here and fill the room if you're doing a music video. Welcome to our DI suite. This is our audio and video finishing room, as I like to call it. You've got really good sound in here. So the White Psych room before was a recording studio, and this was the control room for it. So this room is isolated. It has floated floors. All the walls are not drywall here. This is actually just fabric over it with insulation right behind it. And then a layer of drywall, another insulative layer, and then another couple layers of drywall. So it's a very thick wall between here and the live room. So this room, you can really turn up the volume on the, your music or whatever you're editing, and it doesn't disturb anything out there. And as well as vice versa, anything can be going on out there and you can still get work done in here. So this is the hot seat in the room. This would be for your person who you are editing for, albeit audio or video, and you'd want your client to kind of just chill out and relax and watch on the big screen and hear on the nice speakers. And then behind me is the editing desk. So this is the control seat. You have 2 monitors to edit on, and then you have the big screen out there that everybody can see. You've got nice speakers. You can hear very clearly, and a good set of studio monitors. You'll hear a lot of things you've never heard before. So if you've never edited on a good set of studio monitors, I highly recommend it. It's a good place to hear everything just as it is. This room is really nice and treated, so you can hear even more of that because you're not muddied up by reflections in the room or what the room has to sound like. It's very balanced in here. So also you'll see the musical instruments. We do a little bit of music stuff out here, but it's mostly my personal guitars and amps and just stuff I used. I'd make a little music here and there. I've done quite a few sessions with my sister because she likes to make some music, and that's just a fun thing we get to do, a nice perk here out of this control room. We've done a little ADR out of here. Some folks have come in and done that. We have nice preamps and stuff like that, and microphones we can set up in here. So it's a nice little room to get a lot done, a lot of multi-purpose availability. A large portion of our building is the home of Bad Racket Recording Studio. So this is the live room in Bad Racket. A lot of bands and stuff come through here, a lot of musical groups. We do the Live from Bad Racket series out of here, so you can see those videos and see the kind of work we get to do right next door. It's right down the hall from our place. So nice spot, Cleveland's craft recording space, Bad Racket. Welcome to the game room, and the name really says it all. We have a lot of movies and games and stuff in here. We have a really nice TV and some older VHS style setups where we can see and test a lot of media. But importantly, we have a capture station for all our VHS cameras. Any conversions we'd like to do on VHS World, this is all looped into a computer system, so we can record everything and ingest tape media. We do a fair bit of that. A lot of times, just to stylize a video, it's cool to grab a VHS camera and capture and give it a very vintage vibe. As you can see, we have a lot of media on the wall here, a lot of shelves full of stuff, and we use this room a lot of times to shoot videos that relate to games or movies, or even reviews of equipment that is used in that sense. So we did like a gaming headset, and we use this as a backdrop. So it's nice to have this as a nice little set or a nice little haven to hang out and talk about our projects. My good friend Patrick and his buddy Trevor rent out this space in the front of our building as a little recording studio, and they've really made a lot out of a small space. This is really neat. They do a lot of music and bands here in Cleveland. they're both musicians as well, so they spend a lot of time recording their own stuff as well as others. So it's cool that they have a really nice rack for their amps. They have a ton of guitar selection in here, a really cozy space for a band to hang out. They have a lot of outboard gear that's integrated in their system really nicely. They have a good mixing area. They also have their own little ISO room here, so you can shut this door and you can do drums or the amps, and they have all their cabs in here, so all those amplifiers can be looped into any of these cabs in here, and it's all very patchable and modular, which is cool. They did that for themselves. But yeah, nice little kind of corner studio room, and they really make the most out of it, so it's cool to have those guys here in our building, and they make us look good, honestly. All right, this is the big boss's office, Davey. He sleeps up here 99% of the time because he's got a lot of logs to saw. So he sits up here and gets a little sleepy, don't you, Davey? Okay, good. So, yeah, this is Evan's office. He's got a nice little editing suite set up in here. It's a nice place for us to hang out as well and talk about projects and have folks over to just relax with Davey and figure things out. He's got a main PC set up here, a little Apple computer on the side. We've also got a little CRT set up and a little zone over here. So it's a nice little office space Mr. Evan has here. So that's the tour. We showed you the major highlights here in the building, and back to whatever the heck we were talking about.
Hunter was talking about how things check boxes with the studio, so we're going to go over some of our pros and some of our cons so far with the building.
I would say a major pro that was an added value that wasn't on our list. It wasn't a box to tick, but it was when we realized it was here, we were like, oh, that's perfect. The grid and the cyc. So a cyc is either expensive to build or time consuming. You can choose one or the other. And then the grid is a whole process and
expensive.
Yeah, and if you were gonna say I'm gonna build a grid and do it yourself, then it's an assurance problem, right? It's oh, what are they gonna say about me building this grid? If you're gonna have someone else do it, also expensive, you know what I mean? And funny enough, we know the guy who built this grid. He works in the industry, and we told him we bought this building. He's like, hey, I put that grid in there, and it was it was kind of a peace of mind. It was okay, well, at least we know the guy that did it. It's not it was just some hack job. It wasn't it was Joe. It's from Bob. So I think it's my biggest pro about the space. What do you think your biggest pro is?
Yeah, I think that this room is just the biggest pro so far, just the creativity we have. We kind of expanded our podcast wall space recently, and just the ability to kind of set whatever setup we want, either with set walls or just on the cyc wall here, has just given us some creative freedom that we never had anything close to in the other space. Just having the ability to make this any color, just do lighting things is way more creative, and it's way easier. The power is just all here. That's a big thing. It's super power, super available. It's not complicated, just all comes from one spot. It's super easy.
I've never blown a circuit out here either. It's all 20 amp, a ton of them, which was nice, kind of just built in, and I think you make your pro list, and a lot of times it's oh, it's because it sucked so bad at the old place. High ceilings is a good pro in here, But I mean, one thing is just being cleanly. The place is clean. It's got HVAC all throughout. It needs some HVAC work, especially in the middle. There's some older units. There's some stuff that doesn't work, but it's functional. It's not it's non-functional. So we have some things in place to get those things fixed on the cheap, which is good. And once you fix those things, you're looking at hopefully 10 years at least out of no problems. Just regular maintenance, which we do.
Another pro I would say is just we kind of talked about earlier, but just having a spot for rooms for certain things. This goes here, this goes here.
Just helps being organized.
Organizationally makes it nice. But yeah, I think this room is probably a big pro. I like my room too. It's just comfy and having it's a simple thing, but just having the lighting in there the way I like it, having little LED or RGB lights and just soft lighting and when I'm working is nice, and being in total control of that. We had nice big windows in the old studio, which is nice. And my room has windows, which is nice. But just being able to control the lighting and having my own room has been nice.
I think one of the biggest added values here was the what we've made our DI suite for sound and video. It was the control room for this studio. Like this area here was the recording studio, and the control room was in that room. And it was already built out to be soundproof, floated floors. I mean, all the things that you would spend, upwards of 30 to 40, maybe, $50,000 to have put in or do yourself. And that's a ton of work. And it was done well. You know what I mean? It's very isolative. There's, the room is treated. That's a big thing. It's like you can have an isolated room, you can have a treated room, but to have both is a really good plus. We didn't have to do anything about that. I literally parked our speakers and the desk in there, and it's an excellent workspace. And for me, I'm a very I need horse blinders on when I'm at the computer kind of work, and I still struggle, with just being focused and that stuff. So it's a great space. You shut that door, it's like a vacuum is sealed. And that was just already added value. And a lot of people didn't really, I don't think, see that when they don't know what that room is all about. Mm-hmm. Like the people before had paper in there. You know what I mean? It's like they were just storing stuff in there, and, granted, they probably don't do any work like that, so it's like, why would you have any value for it? So, nice place, nice space that was automatic, just okay, we'll put a big TV in there, and it's a perfect DI. It's a really nice OLED screen, so you get a good look at your footage, and a little bit of stuff to clean up in there. There's that white wall behind the TV. There was something on the other side too. We hung our panels that we had, acoustic panels, just to, that wall was actually parallel and very reflective, which kind of, I'm assuming they had something else there before, probably diffusers that they took with them. And then, yeah, we just got to tidy up. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just a white wall. Just probably paint it black or something and it'd be fine, or put more panels on it. But not a huge priority right now. And it doesn't affect the room that much. So
another pro I have that I don't think we really thought about or perceived ahead of time is that it's really easy to go outside and just take a walk or go in the backyard. We put in a basketball hoop, so when it's nice out, it's really nice to just go out there and relax. We were on the second and third floor at our old space, and it was kind of like a maze to get out, and the door would lock and all this stuff. And we didn't have control over that, obviously, because it was a rented space with other people in it. So it was kind of more of a pain to go outside, and obviously you could, but it's just now I can feel like I can just go outside whenever I want and enjoy some fresh air.
Yeah, that's big.
Just during the day after editing and stuff, but that's something I didn't really think about when we were buying the building. So that's a nice thing. And then just having we've done wiffle ball in the backyard and basketball and everything. So it's just fun to have. And we watched a movie we worked on, Shooting Stars, on the projector back there. It was really nice. So there's just some outdoor stuff that's been a super positive for us.
Yeah, I think, before you had to go on the elevator and it was always confusing for people. I don't think people, parking out here is easy. There's even street parking if there's not enough in our spots. And then, before it wasn't hard there, but
for downtown, it was probably as convenient as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
Because it was just, there was spots that were.
But it's nice here too. We have the cameras out there, everything's, no one's messing around. And we have, the camera system will tell you when people have been, it recognizes a person, and you can look through the notifications, and I've seen 2 humans that we weren't aware of ever. It's been a year almost, you know. It's people don't mess around over here, which is nice. It's just industrial kind of area. There's residential across the street, and we get that question a lot. It's what's this area like? It's nobody walks down the street on this side. It's nobody is. We've had a few weird instances of folks being around, but no one's malicious, just people just being weird. Someone's sitting at our tree back there, just having the most peaceful time ever. And they just left once they saw us. They were just oh, it's a tree, I'm going to sit on it,
But yeah, Hunter made the point, they just think of it, it's Walmart. You just no one thinks it's a place where people are hanging out. They just think it's some random industrial building.
Yeah.
So they're not whatever.
It's not they're trying to do something weird. I don't know.
They're just hanging out in the neighborhood. No big deal. So those are some pros. I don't have a ton of cons. I guess we were kind of talking about James's studio is kind of splitting the two parts of our studio in half. So like I'll go around outside, or if it's late in the evening and he's not here, or if it's just cold and crappy out like today, I just went through because I knew he didn't have a session. So that's like not logistically the best thing ever, but it doesn't really matter in practice. Like we were kind of worried about it, but it's not a big deal.
It's also like we know James and he's a homie. It's not like he's a random tenant that like we just have to deal with or something. And you know, it's fine. It's just like, it's not, you know, you have your office up there and the game room, and the game room's not like a priority by any means. It's just nice, you know, you get to your office through the middle. But you know, I would say it's less of an issue as of late. And then my real cons probably come down to our truck does not fit in the garage door. There's no way to get our truck inside, which was nice at the old place that you could load the big truck inside. And that was like a huge box for me. We're kind of hoping to do something in the back with an awning over like some containers that would give us a way to be able to open the truck undercover. Wouldn't be inside or heated or necessarily, but it'd be better than being out in the rain or something. And you know, that's kind of a big con for me. We can get our little van in here, which is nice. You know, a lot of times we end up loading in here if it's snowing or raining too bad. We can load inside, but not a huge deal. But
I found generally it has to be really bad out for us to even pull a car in here, because the other thing is like it does get the floor, not that it really matters, but it does get the floor dirty. So it's like I find out, unless I really feel like I have to do it or I have a lot of stuff I need to like think about and put in the car, I'll just load it up there. It's so close, like it can't be any closer.
You just
to
open the door and throw it in.
It's really not been that much of an issue, but it would have been nice if you could just back the truck up in here. But it's partially it's all the size of the door, but also it's such a tight alleyway that it might have been difficult even if the door was the right size. You could maybe figure it out, but it's just not
ideal.
Not going to happen. But
well, and there was a door at some point on this back wall. You can see it in the way they fixed the you know, block.
Yeah.
So, you know, at some point it maybe would have worked, but they opted to put it on this side, so the psych was, you know, into a corner, which makes sense. So yeah, I mean, it's a con, but it's become less of an issue than maybe I put weight on it. And then additionally, I think the biggest thing we put weight on that's not an issue is like where we are.
Yeah.
I was worried about not being downtown. It is a little further, you know, from home, which is like, because we're in Lakewood.
It's like a 25-minute drive. It's like all of 12 minutes from downtown. Whenever I'm doing something downtown and have to, like, if I stop by the post office or something downtown, it's so quick to get here, really. So it's really, that hasn't been.
Yeah, it was a concern. You know, we wanted to be obviously as close to downtown as possible just because, I don't know, it's the center. It really is nice to be down there, but it also is the center of it all, because it's like I remember doing a job even out this way, it felt like it was so far away, but really it wasn't, you know, so because we were just right downtown. So, and it's, I guess, you know, location wise, we're not in Cleveland proper, which is like one thing. We're actually in Euclid, but it's not a big deal. We're in Cleveland.
The taxes are hopefully cheaper.
Hopefully.
We kind of touched on a couple improvements we've already made, but now we're going to talk about some improvements we want to make in the future. And
some things we've already done, I guess, as far as in here.
Yeah.
So moving into the psych room, the psych wall had some damage. There were some issues with it. They obviously had spent some time scrubbing up all the like carpet gunk and glue that was on the floor, because it was the same idea in James's room, and we had to do some of that scrubbing. But you know, it was nice that it was already kind of scrubbed out and it was just bare concrete. So we just hit it with some cheap garage floor epoxy from Home Depot. I think we went through like 3 5 gallon buckets of it. And we even painted the floor where the psych was going to be painted just to give it some base layer. And then we've done 2 coats of white so far, you know, since being here. We did 1 coat, it lasted a while, and then it was kind of like case by case. If someone come in and like, well, do you need the floor to be like fresh and new? And if they said no, we didn't paint it, you know. And so we only had 1 instance where we freshened it out for a shoot. And, you know, we try to make sure people like take their shoes off and that kind of stuff to keep it nice. And it lasts a while, you know. You can also like mop it and it is pretty good. And as long as you're not actually doing video on the floor, it's not a big deal. Photo can be photoshopped pretty easily, especially if we're happy to do it, if it's saving us some paint money. But, you know, the paint we initially did was really expensive. We're going to try an alternative alternate that's a little cheaper. I mean, it's just too much to keep painting the floor with like 500 or $100 a gallon paint. That's too much.
Liquid gold.
But yeah, the psych, I think, room and overall is very functional and it kind of where I want it to be. I still want to run some power into the grid potentially, but we just honestly don't hang lights from it very often on a personal use level. And I feel
we
like
need a lift too.
we do need a lift. We had one on the horn, but it has fallen through time and again. But it's not a huge priority. I mean, how often, in my mind, if someone is going to come in and really need it and yada yada and do that, like they can rent one. You know what I mean? That's the thing, is like you can put a lot of money into it, but how much worth it has it been for us? It's been a year. Not that we've been marketing this place very much, but it hasn't really proven to be, it's the grid is not that much higher up to where it's like a stand couldn't get you there for the same purpose. I mean, obviously the grid is useful when you're lighting an area and you don't want stands and you need more area to shoot in. That's really what it comes useful. But just for what we've done, it's not been an issue. There's not much else. We kind of freshened some things up, made it work for us. But overall, aside from like some HVAC stuff that needs addressed, things on our plan is definitely the unfinished space upstairs. We came in, it was just a pretty raw space. I've been slowly chipping away at it, but we want to make a nice lounge. There's not really a good place in this building to like kind of lounge and have a meal. And, I want to make it to where if there's a bigger shoot here, 15 to 20 people is probably like a decently sized shoot for in here. So a good place to serve lunch and have snacks and a place to just kind of get away and have crafty, whatever. So we want to finish the upstairs and make it like a lounge and have a mostly full kitchen. The important things, like have a range just in case someone wants to cook something up. Microwave, a good fridge, a sink, all that stuff.
And for shoots, that's important too. Like if you're doing something food related, it's good to have an oven, or someone might have to be managing food for a shoot.
Yeah,
it's not just for eating, it could be actually on camera.
Yeah,
so just having some of that stuff would be valuable.
Yeah, there's a world where you make it really nice and make it a shootable kitchen too, but it's also like, who wants to shoot upstairs? Like they're not going to do that. So it's just make it functional, make it useful, and then it can be a very usable space. I feel like the balcony needed a little bit of work. We made it kind of our own, and it is a nice place to hang out too. And you can put projection on the psych and watch stuff and yada yada. So it is important to us is it needs to be a good place to hang out too, because this is what we do. I mean, this is where we always are and what we want to what we're passionate about, and it's just a nice place to hang with the gang.
So yeah, that's kind of our wrap up of being here for a year, some pros, some cons, some of the journey of getting here, and we're excited about the future. So if you want to see more stuff about our studio, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
You want to do like a good outro or whatever?
I want to do a bad one.
Okay. I didn't realize we didn't do like the like and subscribe.